we're being told by court.
Hey, my friends, this is unscheduled. It's actually just me trying to figure a couple of things out. I haven't used SuperChat really before, and I know it's a way to promote the channel. So I am trying to figure out how this is done. I've got the chat, I think, embedded, and then the super chats get pinned to the top, and then I'll read a super chat. And there's also a phone number if you'd like to call and ask a question on any subject. Let's see, what is that phone number? Hold, please. Sorry about that. I'm troubleshooting as we go. So that would be Call In Talk Studio. Okay. And then I'll paste. I will paste the phone number in there. Okay. Did that take? Can you see a phone number? Okay, well, perhaps someone can paste it in for me. Apparently, I'm not able to do that. Oh, there it is. Okay, forgive me. The dogs are at the groomer, so I'm waiting on a call. I feel like I betrayed them. There's always like I feed them and let them out, and then I'm like, all right, would you like to go in the car? And then they flip out and they go crazy. And then as soon as we do that, they realize they're going to the groomer and they both start to shake. And it's just terrible. Okay, how do I paste the chat on the screen? I don't know. I have no idea. I don't know. Forgive me. I do have the switchboard open. If you would like to call in, the phone number is on the screen. Today's mostly just about fun and relaxing, and I'm taking a break from all the editing and speech writing. I'm getting ready to to get on a plane and in a car. Actually, I've got Houston, Dallas. I'm going to be in my hometown of Tulsa, Kansas City, potentially Wichita. Then I'm going to New York and Canada in the month of August. And so I've been working and kind of massaging all of the, all of the speeches and whatnot. I sure would like to be able to see the chat on the screen like I'm supposed to, but it doesn't work. And I don't know how to fix it. Settings. Never mind. Let's see. Anyway, if you would like to support the channel, I'm attempting super chats. Short version of a long story is that the podcast revenue in the industry as a whole has gone down just a little bit, and especially post-COVID, trying to replenish what we are losing. But it's not much, but it obviously is what I do to pay the bills. So if you would like to super chat, there should be, I think, a super chat thing in the side of the chat. You just click it and donate any amount, and then it will pop up, and then I will address specifically whatever comment or question that you have. I don't know if that will appear on screen because I have no idea what I'm doing. Some of these other shows, they have all these producers and they have people typing in the chats real time. I'm just one guy navigating. I've got OBS and I've got Streamlabs and I've got Streamlabs Live Talk, which I haven't figured out yet. And then there's Restream, and oh my God, I don't even know. I mean, it's possible these things are all running at the same time. God. So anyway, if you do have a super chat, I believe those should pop up in my YouTube. I will see those, and I'll do my best to address them. Can someone confirm there is actually a super chat sign in the right side of where you dial in? Can someone help me out? Would it be possible? Okay, you're very kind. Thank you. We'll start, I guess, with a few phone calls. And I appreciate you so very much for being here. And I'm sorry for the rocky start. I'm just scattered. You ever have those days? Yesterday, I just woke up testy. You ever have those days? There's no reason to be testy. You just wake up and it's almost like you're roid raging a little bit. It's not that it's not that I'm angry. It's just that the fuse is really, really short. Like I have no patience, right? Today is not the day. That's the mindset that you have. And so when somebody says something remotely stupid, or you're not getting what it is that you set out to get, you're not getting traction on whatever you're trying to do, you become unreasonably agitated and irritated. Proportionately, it doesn't make sense. But for some reason, you're right there on the edge. We call this the 6% event. Well, this is my mindset yesterday. I've just been tense. Natalie's like, well, what are you tense about? Oh, nothing. I just woke up tense. Well, what's wrong? Nothing's wrong. There's not one thing. I just woke up tense. Oh, well, did something happen? No, nothing happened. I just woke up tense. You ever have those days? And then those seem to be the days that people try your patience. So I've got somebody who is on my family tree, and they're being treated for a medical condition. Of course, this is, it's something I'm very concerned about. But I'm also having to sit back and watch the Jesus talk. Well, we're just going to pray for him. He's in the fucking hospital. There are doctors treating this person 24/7. It's medications, it's examinations, it's x-rays, it's EKGs, it's all this stuff. Jesus. He's being given a long-run program for rehabilitation using science-based medicine. If he gets better, guess who gets the credit? It doesn't cost me anything, but it's hard to watch. And if you feel a little bit agitated, it's even harder to watch. I don't know. Maybe I'm just getting crabby. I did a live stream with Forrest Valkai the other day, and I had a great time. It's funny to watch us together. Like, he is a Gatling gun. He is just nonstop, you know. And I'm more like a Civil War era rifle. I have to be primed. You have to stick the black powder in, and then you take the thing and the spark, and you have to cock, then you shoot 3 shots a minute. That's me, right? And Forrest is he's hardcore. He's going crazy. So it's funny to watch that dynamic, but somebody had posted in the comments, Seth looks irritated. I'm getting neg vibes. I don't feel neg vibes. I didn't feel it when I was on the show, but was I scowling? Was I scowling? I don't know. So anyway, my first super chat has come in. It is not being shown on the screen. Hold, please. I don't know why. All I know to do is to read them. Gnomish Viking has made a donation. Hey, Seth, my name's Kevin. I met you last month in Calgary. Loved getting to chat with you, and your presentation was absolutely amazing. Very kind of you. I'm doing a speech actually throughout the next couple of months on purity culture and how it impacts not just women, but men as well, and how people who are trying to control your sex life actually are going for control of your entire life, who you love, how you live, your choices, your value system, your past, present, future. They really do want all of it. And I think if you control somebody's sexual identity, it's sort of it's a gateway to the entire person. And it's a fun speech. It sounds really heavy, but it's a fun speech. And yes, it will post to YouTube probably late August. And I think you're going to really enjoy yourself. Forgive me. I really need to get this chat in on screen. I want you to see what I'm seeing. Would you be patient with me while I'm trying to figure out a technical question, because I don't have a crew, because I am a crew of one? Let's take a peek here. Can I grab the hold, please? So let's try this. And so let's hide this window. Let's try to create another window. This must be stimulating for you. Stimulating. Browser source. Chat 2. Oh, look. Okay. So how do I make this bigger? How do I change the dimensions of the chat? Let's go into properties. Width will be 400. Height will be 800. Okay, lovely. Does that work okay for you? Funny has asked if I have a Twitch channel. I actually game a little bit. I'm a gamer. I'm not a good gamer, but I do enjoy it. It's called Seth Andrews Gaming Badly. And right now we're playing Resident Evil Village. And I like horror movies and horror games. And I've been out of the gaming scene for a couple of years. I'm terrible. I am terrible. I can't move well. I'm a terrible aimer. If there are baddies coming my way, I waste more ammunition than I use. I swear profusely. So it's Resident Evil Village at the moment. Also, I'm going back to play Shadow of the Tomb Raider. I heard that today Layers of Fear releases, and I'm a huge Layers of Fear guy. That's a tremendous, tremendous game. 1 and 2, absolutely fantastic. Outlast 1 and Outlast 2 are quite good, especially given the fact that they deal with a wacky religious cult. And, I'm all about going to do battle with the cults. And I mean, they're dark. They do human sacrifice. It's like the Illuminati mixed with, I don't know, the minions of hell mixed with the 21st century Republican Party. So anyway, that's that's what I've been playing, and you can find my stream. You can search Seth Andrews Gaming Badly on Twitch or Seth Andrews. I should pop up. You'll see an illustration of me. For those who are just interested in a distraction, we will play. We'll play occasionally on my lunch hour. Usually it's midday when I'm taking a break from all of the editing. I'm going to attempt with this new. I'm working on a new interface. Obviously, I'm going to attempt to take a call at 901. Are you there? Can you hear me? Wonderful, my friend. Thank you so much for calling. What's up? Oh, you asked me to autograph and draw a cat. Well, thank you. Yeah. Hang on. You can hear me, but our listeners can't hear you. Forgive me.
Oh, goodness.
There you are. Now, he, if I may recap, forgive me. He had me autograph a book and draw a picture of a cat. And so, anyway, for some reason, why a cat? Do you have some kind of a thing, a feline thing, or what?
I've got 2 cats. I got one, and then the gentleman from whom I acquired her passed away about 6 months later. So I went over to pick up the sister of that cat from the same litter. And while I was there, I started talking to the niece because she was in charge of the estate, and she lived in Alabama, didn't want to do the 5-hour commute to sell it. So I just bought it as is. So I fixed it up, and I got to bring my girls back to their home. So I guess I'm just a cat guy now.
All right. By the way, thanks to Toy Soldier for a super chat of $2. What's on your mind? What do you want to talk about?
Well, it's just a goofy question because I figured you're kind of in a whimsical-ish mood, if you're okay with that.
Yeah, in fact, everybody who calls needs to ask at least one non-atheism or religion-related question. I want to talk about other things. What do you have?
Okay. Would you rather be a plane, a train, or a boat?
A plane.
Do you mind explaining why?
Well, I really do like to fly unless there's turbulence. I like the idea of seeing the world from above. I like the idea that you could travel long distances. I think flying is, I don't know, it's probably one of the fantasies of people who, if they had superpowers, they would, flying is probably one of the top choices. They all sound okay. Well, boating doesn't. I'm motion sick. I'd be yakking my guts out. If I was a boat, I would actually be. But I mean, I think a plane. I don't know. What would you choose and why?
I hate to say it, but I'd probably pick a boat just because I like the bobbing, even though, yeah, I do get motion sick, but I figure as a boat, I'd probably get used to it eventually. But it's just one of those icebreaker questions I ask whenever I train somebody at work. Just, it always has a fun answer to it.
I had
I just wanted to hear what you said.
a chatter named Funny has said trains can't go off the rails. Now, there might be a good reason there to not be a train because we are rebels. We carve our own path. No one else will set our destination for us. And the second someone attempts to control us, then we must break free. We must leave the established path to go and create a path of our own. So yes, airplane makes more and more sense to me the more I think about it. But thanks for the question and thanks for the call, my friend.
Anytime. You stay perfect. I'll talk to you eventually. You have a great day.
Staying perfect. That's a very high bar. Very high bar for me. Chris is calling me at 973. Are you there?
Yeah, how's it going, man?
I'm well. Thanks for calling. What's on your mind?
Yes. Yes, I wanted to call in because I think it's because I'm also an atheist and I've been listening to your channel. And last couple of weeks, I think I've heard someone who called in about atheism, and I kind of share the same philosophies. And I kind of want to bring up the topic more because I don't think it's talked much about since especially in atheism.
Okay, for those who weren't part of the broadcast, explain what it is and then your position.
Yeah, so I'm both like an atheist. An atheist as well as like a anti-natalist, and it's basically like anti-natalism where it just includes everything basically. So anti-natalism is like against procreation of basically humans, and because it's immoral, there's no really good reason for it. But so basically, what I wanted to call in is basically kind of connect with the atheism because the question I really want to ask you, which isn't related to atheism or even like theism, it's basically like, if there is no God, basically, then as human beings, don't we have an obligation to use our intelligence for something good? Like if we're seeing piles of like suffering and messes happening upon thousands of years, like for example, animals have been on this earth for millions of years, and all they've been doing is eating each other basically, and there's nothing really they're winning at basically besides surviving for the next day. And so basically my question is don't we have some sort of obligation? Like shouldn't as humans use our intelligence for something to kind of look at this problem and go like, shouldn't we do something about it basically?
Okay, for those who didn't hear the recording session that we did with the anti-natalist, that is going to air near the end of the month. The official recording is going to go out in a few weeks. But the original call, the kind of the overall vibe was we are just taking up resources. Children didn't ask to be born, so there's a kind of violation that's taking place when you bring someone into the world. A child is born, the child never asked for this, and then that child is born into a world of suffering. Is that fair to sort of determine that for someone else? What I hear in your question is, shouldn't we be using our intelligence to solve the suffering problem in the world? I call that humanism, and I think it's happening every day.
So, like, the thing is, like, because as long as humans are here, and a lot of humans are using their brains poorly. I mean, people are making very bad judgments. We always see people doing crazy stuff. And, like, as humans who have the intelligence to see this problem, and not even including humans, but also animals, right? They're playing a game that they never even asked to play in. And for millions of years, they've been playing the same game where they eat each other. Nothing comes out of it. Nothing good comes out of it.
No, I just disagree with your premise.
Yeah.
I disagree with your premise. We do see that. We see the suffering inflicted upon others. We also see nurturing. We see love. We see care. We see joy. We see connection. We see self-generated purpose. We see lots of goodness. The fact that suffering exists doesn't negate the rest of it. And for my part, I'm glad I was born. I'm glad I have the opportunity. I beat the odds. I get a chance to breathe the air,
Right, but also like we could also, because with the anti-natalism argument, basically there was never a need to have a need, basically, and so that's a fact. That's a fact. But not only that, it's like when you have someone that lives in non-existence, right? Like I don't have any children. There's no need for it to exist right now. And it's not like suffering at all for not coming into existence. It's never, because there's no need, like, and, it's like almost like we could do these kind of planning things. Like we could use our brain to plan a lot, but it seems like people don't. They just kind of respect nature as something like intelligent when it's not intelligent. There's nothing intelligent in nature.
I disagree. Well, we don't see intelligence per se in the processes of nature, but we see intelligence produced by nature, even in the animal kingdom, including and especially the human animal. I just disagree with your premise, but I appreciate the call. It's something to talk about. Certainly, the chat is going to have probably a lot to say about that. But for my part, I can only speak to me. I'm thankful to be alive. I don't think that it's all needless. And quite frankly, even if I don't serve a larger purpose for the universe, I get a chance to develop my own wants and needs, and I get to pursue goodness. And there's, I hear a lot of broad generalities about people, and I think on a planet of 8 billion, I just think there's a wide spectrum, and I think many are using their powers for good. And I appreciate your call. Okay, Chris?
Yeah, no problem. Take care, man.
Yeah, thank you. I didn't choose to be born. I don't think that's a violation. We do see antisocial behaviors, destructive behaviors, which produce suffering. But to say that all of nature is this is just incorrect. We see pro-social behaviors. We see connection. We see promotion. We see positivity. And lots of goodness. I think it's hard sometimes to acknowledge that because the bad stuff gets all the press. But I'm glad to be here. Are you glad to be here? The phone lines are open. If I have a mod in the chat, maybe I can paste it in again. You are more than welcome to call. Forgive me, I did not get I didn't get it in the title of the show. Your calls. Let's see. Scott at 260. Hi, you there?
Yes, I am. Thank you, sir, and thank you for the work you've done for humanity, just trying to expand people's minds and their willingness to reconsider what they believe.
Oh, you're very kind. Well, I'm just doing what I can as best I can. What's on your mind?
So I just wanted to put out there a larger challenge, and I'm going to try and be concise to be kind to your callers and your listeners. Born with a physical disability, struggled with chronic illness my entire life. And the hypocrisy within the Christian community is staggering. Was raised in an Episcopal church, went through the fundamental evangelicalism, and could tell you stories about just the crazy things people say as it relates to chronic illness, physical disability, and then stumbled on being in a nursing care facility for 15 months. I've lived now for multiple years, hotel to hotel because of medical bills. And you know what I get when I call the Christian community? We would help you, but you're not a member of my church. And I look at that and I go, the Jesus you serve, is that how he would behave? And I just wonder what it would take for humanity to treat each other like valuable equals regardless of their challenges.
To be fair, a lot of churches that I've encountered, they don't care about membership. They genuinely care about suffering. I disagree with how they approach suffering. I'm sure you probably heard some people say it's a spiritual issue or the Lord is using these light and momentary afflictions to produce for you an eternal glory that far outweighs them all. You'll have a whole body in the next life. Have you heard any of that out there?
I've heard all of that, and I've had people randomly stop and lay hands on me in public places.
Yeah.
So it's not that I'm against what they believe, but I just wonder, like, having read scriptural texts in many translations, I saw a Jesus who wandered around and helped people in need as they needed, right? I didn't see a qualification of what someone believed as a prerequisite to helping them. And I'm not even angry about it. I'm just more sad because I think there are people who are hidden away or forgotten by society who could be giving back a lot more if they were given a chance to have their needs met in a more humanistic way.
Well, I agree with you completely. You know, it's funny. Believers pray for healing, but they pay for doctors. And my father was, he had a severe hearing loss. And he'd go into a church, especially the Assembly of God culture, and they would find out that he had this disability, and they would all of a sudden, they'd insist on gathering around him, and they'd pray, "Oh Lord, we call down your precious blood, the healing power of Jesus Christ. We name and claim his healing in Jesus' name." And of course, he remained deaf, and he became so disenfranchised. It didn't shake his faith, but he just, it alienated him a little bit from these types of churches. But if you read especially in the New Testament, whatever you ask in my name, I will do it, that the Father might be glorified in the Son. And yet we see that nothing fails like prayer. And the entire time people are naming and claiming and praying and believing, they are engaging in a system where human beings provide whatever answers we can get. They pay their insurance premiums. They go to the emergency rooms. They wait in the waiting rooms, praying as the surgeons are providing critical care in the operating room. It's hypocrisy. Some of it understandable because they are grasping for hope. But I also think a lot of it's a cop-out, and I'll bet you'd agree with me on that, right? They think they're helping. It's almost like they're kidding themselves. I am doing something by doing nothing. Would you agree?
And I think I call it pass the buck, right? If I prayed for you, then I don't have to help you get to the store. I don't have to help you talk through your feelings. I prayed, I did something. So my responsibility is now gone. That's how I experience it.
Yeah. No, you're right. There's a lot of it out there. I've seen people do it as they walk away. Even in the benign thing, what you do is you start with that sort of small talk at the beginning of a conversation where you'll say, "Hey, how you doing? I'm fine. How are you?" I'm not doing great. And as they are walking in the other direction, they'll say, "You know what? I'll pray for you. I'll pray for you today.
Yep.
Okay, have a good one." And then they're gone like that. Not what's your specific need? What can I do for you? It's and then I'll bet those people don't even bother. But if they actually bow their head and say, "Lord, be with Seth today," what have they actually done? But you've drawn a circle around a legitimate problem, and I think legitimate hypocrisy within the church. Even people who don't realize that they're doing nothing, who think they're making a difference, are just whispering to themselves. And I'm sorry that's been your experience, my friend.
I'm not sorry for me, but I'm sorry for the people who haven't at least found some solace in, and maybe it's a little woo-woo, and I'm good with that, but I still believe that change can happen in any given moment, and that a good person can happen along in a split second. That's what keeps me going, because I have to have something to believe in. So I believe in possibility instead of the fantasy of God fixing things.
I gotcha. Good stuff. I appreciate you adding perspective and speaking your mind. That's important, and it's true.
So for the non-religious question for you, sir.
Yes.
Delete one law and add one law and make humanity better. What do you do?
I would delete right now the edict by the Supreme Court outlawing abortion, the assault on female reproductive choice. Right now, that would be my number one. If I was to add one law, it would be either the reinforcement of a law or some sort of I don't know if you'd have to make a second law reestablishing the boundary between church and state, because right now the churches are political wings. I think those two, literally locking out churches. Perhaps it's the enforcement of penalty for breaching the law, for breaching the constitutional state church line. I live in the state of Oklahoma, and we've got more politicians banging Bibles in this state than I have ever seen in my life. They are getting preferential treatment by the Internal Revenue Service, even though the IRS has specific requirements saying that you can't freaking do that. So, if we didn't need a new law, I would enforce the law that is currently established, for what it's worth. Okay?
That makes sense.
Thanks for calling. See you later.
Great. Take care.
Scott in the chat says we should tax the churches. I used to say no, because that would validate the church's infiltration into politics, that breach of the state church line. The establishment clause is there for a reason. I think I've come to the point where that gorilla's out of its cage. These people are going to do it anyway. Hardly anybody wants to go after the churches for breaking the law because they'll be painted in the public eye as being anti-religion. It's an attack on religious liberty. It's all right, fine. Part of me thinks that 800-pound gorilla is already out of the cage. Freaking tax them. If they're going to participate in politics anyway, if they're going to break the rules, okay. Bring in the IRS and let's tax them as if we would tax anybody else. Make them pay their fair share. I may be wrong on that, but I think at the moment that's how I feel. Ethan at 512, are you there?
Yeah, how's it going, Seth?
Appreciate your call. What do you want to talk about?
A little bit of humanism. One of the things I've been noticing a lot of is that people have a negative attitude towards everything. And I mean everything. Whether it's Christians, whether it's atheists, whether it's Muslims, it doesn't matter. The number of people out here today that are talking about civil war or the end times or how everything is bad and terrible. And I recently heard about a study that said that, people don't go do social events together anymore. That number has reduced. And I can't wrap my head around it because statistically, if we're looking at FBI crime stats and CDC death-related stats, most of the horrible things have reduced by a pretty substantial amount, like breaking and enterings, car thefts, murders overall, domestic violence. There was a spike during the pandemic in domestics, but overall, compared to the 1990s, we're in a much better place today than we've ever been. Yes, politically, for obvious reasons, the United States is a hot mess. There are other countries that are dealing with the same thing we're dealing with. We have this division between this hardcore right-wing extremism and people who just want to live peaceably. How do we wrap our heads around what I think is more or less just a human condition and the fact that it takes so long for us as a species to make effective change that benefits us in the long run?
That's a how do we fix the world question. You and I agree. We're seeing statistics on violent crime, murders are down. We're seeing a lot of advancements. But it's also true that we have seen the rise in white nationalism, persecution of LGBT people. Right now, we've seen, even as Pride has been going on, we've got Nazis who are waving their banners at the front of the entrance of Disney in Florida. There's a guy at is it in Miami where Trump's arraignment is going on? He's waving his flags, but he also has the severed head of a pig on the end of a pike. We've got hate pastors who are saying that Christians need to emulate Islamic terrorists by thinking about strapping bombs to their chests because this is holy war. So I don't think that this fits in a box. I think in a lot of ways we are more civilized and we are seeing a lot of progress, but the amplification of hate cannot be ignored. The proliferation of misinformation is insane and it's making everything harder. Honestly, I don't have a solution. I don't know if we can fix the world. All I know is that I'm not going to quit kicking, and I hope everybody else feels the same. I don't want to give up, but do I feel like sometimes we're circling the drain? Absolutely. And despite the fact that we've made a lot of inroads, the rest of it scares the crap out of me. And so I think we just do the best we can. Okay, Ethan?
I mean, I understand that. And I think, I made a TikTok the other day where I made the statement that the human being's superpower is education. Out of all the animals, all the life forms that we know for a fact that exist, we're the smartest, right? We have the highest capability to learn. And I think we kind of forget that. And that's, I think, probably our most tragic trait.
Yeah, let me think about that.
In a universe full of answers, only a small portion of us are actually looking for them.
Yeah, let me think about that one, brother. I'm going to move on. Appreciate the call. Have a good day, all right?
Thank you, Seth. Appreciate you.
Yeah, thank you. It's like somebody on the chat had mentioned the internet, connecting us to a wealth of information and to each other worldwide in the snap of a finger. It is also one of the most powerful tools for conspiracy and misinformation and hate and awfulness. There are a squillion branches on that tree. I have no idea. You can't be reductive with it. And the more information is out there, the more the peddlers of misinformation are going to go crazy with it. I don't know how you stop countering it. I don't know how you stop resisting, because then they win the day. But man, it's whack-a-mole. And I think, and beyond that, I got to be careful with this one. I am struck by the irredeemable stupidity that people believe out there. I mean, just that's such obvious lunacy that people grasp onto. I don't know. I fear for the species. Sometimes I root for the killer asteroid. I'm just saying. No super chats coming in. Screw it. I'm just going to roll with it. At 850, Kevin, thanks for calling, brother. What's on your mind?
Hey, Seth, thanks so much for taking my call, man. I really love you, brother. You're an awesome guy.
Thanks for calling.
Yeah, man, it's such a strange thing to call a show like this. I mean, you're just such a regular guy, but I'm sure I'm not the only person who feels nervous when they're on hold.
You're doing fine.
Just like, what?
No, you're doing fine. Let's just talk like real people, brother. What do you want to talk about?
No, I was just highlighting the fascination I have with, that feeling that you get when you call a show. Anyway, what's on my mind, I mean, gosh, I could have tied in with a couple of the previous callers. Just some good ones today. And, I've got a couple of friends who are very right of center, fundamental Christian types. And when they go on and on about the Democrats and, all this nonsense that they carry on about, I get sick to my stomach. But I have the same experience when I hear a lot of folks that are on the left doing the same thing to the other side. I have been cursed with being a registered libertarian since I was 18, and I voted in every election. So I'm very adept at voting for losers. And I don't claim that the libertarian ideas would solve all the world's problems, but I'm just ready for a new experiment. And I get really curious. I've watched a few of your videos lately, one of which, like the one about Tucker Carlson, and there's some obvious reasons to criticize that individual. But on the other hand, there's also some things that you stated in your video that really bothered me. And I get sick to my stomach. It's just this tribalism thing. And I'm curious as to why you support Democrats specifically across the board. I mean, I can get some general ideas, hunches that I have, but given the level of corruption that exists in that party as well, I'm not sure why so many of my atheist friends just, at risk of offending you, blindly support them. Could you speak to that?
Well, I think this may be what I would consider a false equivalence argument. There's corruption on both sides. There's waste on both sides. There's overreach and even awfulness on both sides. Okay. But I don't think they are equivalents. For me, I think my alignment with a political platform is not a love letter to that party. It's a chess move toward the kind of world that I want to live in. So if I go point by point through my value system, do I want state-church separation? That's going to be the Democratic Party. Do I want the death penalty abolished because it's arbitrarily meted out, it's often racist, and it is ineffective and I think barbaric? That's going to be a Democratic value or platform. The legalization of drugs, the Republicans were never on the side of marijuana. That had to be like, why are people in jail for weed? I think that's ridiculous. The acceptance and promotion of all of humanity, LGBT rights, that's not a Republican talking point. It's not part of their platform. Right now, they're at war with LGBT people. So that's going to be something that the Democratic Party supports. I don't think healthcare is a privilege. I think we as a society with collectivist values should be taking care of our own. I think it's insane that many people who even pay for healthcare policies still might go bankrupt in the case of a major medical emergency. So I look at other first world nations who've established nationalized healthcare as part of their societal contract. Well, that's not going to be the Republicans. They're like, hey, screw you guys. The Democratic Party is the one that does that. And again and again, when it comes to our foreign policy, when it comes to protecting the state-church line and making sure that churches don't get preferential treatment, et cetera, et cetera. It's not that I love the Democratic parties. I don't worship Joe Biden. And I think you'll see the difference as a culture, where among the Republicans, they mark their territory with flags, waving banners. They hang outside of homes. There are gift shops. They put a golden Trump statue at the CPAC convention. You've got people now marching with heads on a pike in front of the courthouse. You see people who support Biden, you might see the occasional sticker or flag to show solidarity, but there's not a worship of the man as some sort of a proxy. So that is the rejection of authoritarianism. We chose a leader who was also a servant. But I think it's just fine to say, yeah, you'll find awful Democrats, you'll find waste and corruption, you'll find misguided stuff, you'll find tribalism. But I don't think you will find them equally. And if I have to choose, I'm going to pick the party that most aligns with my values as a humanist. That's the best way I can say it.
Have you ever considered a third party?
In a utopian world, yeah. And I've had some people get pissed off at me because they're like, well, it'll never happen as long as we support the two-party system. But right now, this is the shit sandwich I've been dealt. I am putting out the house fire. We can worry about rebuilding another house down the way. The house we live in is on fire. And I have two major controlling parties. I have to make a choice based on those parties. And I don't care what the utopian people who say, let's go build a better world. I like the idea of it. I think it's fucking Xanadu. Right now, I've got an authoritarian savior figure who is waging war on democracy and decency. He must be stopped. And I'm not going to do it with some third party. Maybe someday we can explore that. But that's where I fall, okay?
Yeah, I agree that you're certainly not going to get that with a third party right now. But if we always acquiesce to the idea that this is just too urgent of a moment, we've got to do this, we'll never get alternatives to the two-party duopoly. We'll never get alternatives to a system that provides, $170 billion for a proxy war with Russia that we actually created going all the way back to 2014. I'm tired of this, Seth. I'm tired of it. I just want it to stop. I know, I get it. You make an incredibly valid point that it's utopia or it's, but I just wish there was a beginning to a new idea rather than the shit sandwich that we're forced to eat. That's all. And again, I just wanted to kind of voice that I feel sick to my stomach when the people that I care about just rail specifically to one side and turn a blind eye to the sins of the other that they support. That's all.
I got you, brother. Well, I appreciate the call. You've given us food for thought. We'll talk again, okay?
Will do.
Yeah,
Take care, Seth. Bye.
I mean, I think we see people who are reductive binary thinkers who reduce their interlocutors or even their ideological opponents to caricature. And everybody does this. And my fellow libs, right? Democrats can be guilty. Atheists can be guilty when we talk about religious people. I'm always bantering on about this, probably driving you crazy. Because, I feel like we are three-dimensional human beings. And instead, all Republicans are Nazis, right? It's really along the same lines as all Muslims are terrorists. And I think it's the human desire to see simple answers to complex questions, because complexity, the gray, the spectrum, all of that, it grieves us. It overwhelms us and we blink out. At this measure, I think the perfect is the enemy of the goods. So I'm stuck with what choice? Do I go over here and waste my votes on a party that has zero chance? Or do I align with a party that most represents my values when it comes to humanity, equality, national responsibility? It's not going to be with the Christian nationalists who are chest thumping that God loves us better than everybody else. Most of those people, white nationalists, hearkening back to the days when we were great again. Making America great again when? If you ask them, many will say the mid-20th century. Okay, well, that's right after the Second World War. That's during the height of the Cold War. We've got kids sitting under wooden desks preparing with duck and cover drills because a nuke might fall on us at any moment. Interracial marriage, illegal. The schools are segregated. Water fountains are segregated. Restaurants, public spaces everywhere are segregated, with whites giving privilege. Women discouraged from being meaningful parts of society, and when they are paid less. Gay people considered sodomites and endangered physically. By the way, this is starting to happen. Well, it's been happening for a while, but we're seeing a resurgence, even a celebration of it. Is that what I want? Do I want that culture to be given the reins of power? I have no choice but to align myself with the most powerful party to resist them. And say what you will about Joe Biden, I think he's a humanist. The way he speaks, the way he leads from the top, the tone he sets, he is an adult in the room. Have you noticed he doesn't dive into the petty, childish, ranting insults that Trump has? This is strategic. He's being the adult in the room. Is he perfect? Does he have problematic parts of his life? Is he a politician? Okay. But this is not even close for me. As a humanist, how could I align myself with anything that might enable the Trump or the Ron DeSantis? Or who is it, RFK Jr. who is running for president? He's an anti-vax conspiracy nut. How can I do that? How can I do that? I missed a super chat. Forgive me. Let me scroll up here and see if I can find it. Greg, thank you so much. He called me a super person. Greg, you need to set the bar higher, but you are so very appreciated. And Brian has done a super chat. Thanks for doing what you do. You are very, very kind. my friend. Let's talk to an international call. 46 is the prefix. What is your name?
Hello. My name is
Hello,
Robert.
hi. Tell me your name.
Hello. Hello. Yeah, Seth, I really like what you're doing. I saw several of your debates and of your shows and stuff. And I think I really admire all the content creators, and they have like a deconversion story. I think you also have that, right? Is that correct?
Sorry, I missed the last part of your statement. Can you say it again for me?
Well, I heard from, for example, from Aaron Ra. He has a deconversion story, right? Where he finally lost his faith and gave up.
Yeah,
Like, you also
Aaron
have that.
Ra
Yeah.
sort of sampled at the buffet of belief. He
Yeah,
ran
yeah,
through the gamut and he came out. I wouldn't call it any one faith. I think he pinballed through quite a few. But yes, he's obviously
yeah,
not just an atheist, but an anti-theist.
yeah. But my thing is, I never had a deconversion story because I never believed it in the first place, right?
Hmm.
But the irony is, and the context of my call is, we had a religion in public schools, which would be impossible in USA, right?
I'm sorry, I missed it
And
again. Can you repeat that last line one more time? Please forgive me.
so I had a religion in public schools, right? We had back in the 80s, we in Europe had, I was not born in USA, I was born in Central Europe, right? South part of Germany. And we did have religion in public schools. And it was being taught as fact. And it's still being taught as fact today. Right?
Well, it sounds like the state of Oklahoma. We just approved a Catholic charter school to receive taxpayer money across the board. It is a massive breach of the state church line. We believe it's designed to go straight to the Supreme Court because they believe they have a friendly court to be able to make this potentially the law of the land. So yes, you are correct. We are seeing the interjection in many contexts of religion into taxpayer-funded public school.
But this is against your constitution, right?
Yes, it is
But
absolutely.
in my country, where I was born, it was not. It was being taught as fact in the public school. And today, they even have Islamic religion taught to children from Muslim families. But at that time, when I grew up, there was only Catholics and the European branch of Protestants. It's not exactly the same as these evangelicals in USA, but there were two denominations that were being taught. And I remember even lessons from that time where the teacher tried to attack things like evolution. Well, once she was a nice woman, she was a nice teacher, but she once came with a high-pitched voice, had a little replica of a monkey skull, and said, "This is a monkey." When we talked about missionaries and in Ceylon and such things, and this is not like you, right? So she was that kind of delusional person, right? But this was officially being taught in public schools, starting from Abraham and Isaac and Rahel and all these stories, right? And they were being taught as fact, which would be impossible in USA because it's forbidden by the Constitution. But in our country, it's not. Right?
I hear you. I'm glad that you've been a lifelong non-believer. It sounds like you escaped much of that dogma and remained skeptical.
Yeah, well, ironically, I never believed it. I was once thinking that I believe it, but I think I was just like expressing myself within the same terms as the religious teacher did, right?
Mm-hmm.
I thought that I was at the time, I was maybe like 9 or 10 years old. And even ironically, this was being taught like every school hour was 45 minutes, right? So this was being taught like 2 school hours, at least 2 per week, even if not more, maybe 3 per week. Now, ironically, there is on YouTube, there's a so-called preacher called Kent Hovind. I'm sure you know about him.
Yes.
And his stance on all evolution is a religion, and gobbledygook, and all it should not be taught in public schools, and only if both are being taught in public schools, specifically his religion and evolution, then okay, right? But the irony is, evolution is being taught only within another topic, within the topic of biology, and not from first grade on. But usually, as I remember, we had it like from maybe 8th, 9th grade on with biology, right? But religion, specifically his religion of Christianity, is being taught starting from first grade on, and as its own curriculum, not within another topic.
I got you.
Then my question would be, which one is he supposed to throw out? Will he then help me to throw out his religion? Because his religion has way more of an influence. And guess what happens when this is gone? If that should be thrown out, I doubt that Germans will ever do that. But still, bear with me here, right? Within the lines of his argumentation, if there should be on equal footage, then they should either be both thrown out or both be in, but both be in on equal footage, right? On equal grounds. And this is not an equal ground. Even if you say evolution is a religion, which is not, right? So there is something wrong with this argumentation of certain people. But anyway, who listens to such people? Anyway.
Okay. Well, let me chew on that, and can I answer your question after the call? Would that be all right, sir?
Oh, yeah, of course.
You're very kind. Thanks for calling the show.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I don't really see it as an equal footing issue. It sounds like one is superstition and the other is science. I understand his frustration. But I don't think, and this may not be what he had intended, but teach the controversy or teach both equally side by side. I think one is an attack on science and the other is science. How do you fix that? I have no idea. I have absolutely no idea, but I understand the frustration. I've got a few super chats in here. Ray donated $10 for not making the perfect the enemy of the good. Thomas, because our values align, here is a little help. Thomas, I appreciate you very much. Gnomish Viking, any thoughts on the rapid development of artificial intelligence? And are you worried of the socioeconomic misinformation issues? Would this change the narrative religious people have on consciousness? I don't believe that AI is going to budge the religious notions of consciousness unless it is a huge step, unless it becomes Skynet, probably only if it becomes a threat. I really don't know. This is just one guy's speculation. But we're talking about a culture that believes that consciousness is actually part of the soul, which is existing beyond the physical brain. There is the mind and the brain. These things are different. The soul is assigned to you supernaturally, and the mind is simply a house for the soul. And in that way, they see the idea of a machine becoming conscious as ridiculous. Why in the world would God give consciousness, a soul, to a machine? And because they don't see the brain as a computer in that way, the idea that an actual physical, human-created computer might become self-aware, that just causes them to go tilt. And I think the only way they might budge on that thinking is if they feel threatened. And that would activate them into yet another reason to freak out. I'm astounded by this culture that claims nonstop that no weapon formed against me shall prosper, right? Not a sparrow shall fall from the sky apart from your Father's care. Are you not worth more than many sparrows? The battle is already won. The victory is ours. Satan is defeated. These people, out of one side of their mouth, talk about the fact that God loves and protects them because they are the chosen, the adopted sons and daughters of Yahweh Jesus. At the same time, they lose their shit about everything they see and hear. Notice how much of their narrative is this. They're coming for you. They're coming for you. The atheists are coming for you. And secular humanists, the Democrats, the immigrants, the Muslims, the Jews, the aliens, they're going to take everything that's important. They're going to come. They're going to take your jobs. They're going to take your children. They're going to take your faith. They're going to make the Bible illegal. They're going to burn down the churches. They want to take away Christianity from you. They want to take it all. They want to take it all. And they just sit there and bleat and moan and whine and freak. Do not ever let these people call you a snowflake. And it's monster hypocrisy, which takes us back to our previous call. I am a divinely protected child of the living God. Now I must lock my doors, my deadbolts. I must load my firearms to protect myself, and I must carry an AR-15 to Starbucks just in case. I click my seat belts, I set my alarms, I buy my insurance policies, I load my mace can. This is a revelation of just how hypocritical these people are. Deke said, should parse out philosophical positions from fact claims when discussing religion. We muddle them together too often when talking to would-be allies. Am I tracking totally with that? Let me see if I rephrase it more correctly, at least to me. I am more interested in your values than your beliefs. If you are an atheist who hates people, and you are toxic to your fellow human beings and destructive in the way that you behave, and you stand next to a Christian who believes in Jesus but loves people and wants equality and doesn't think that God needs a state church and aligns in terms of caring for our fellow human beings, I choose the religious person to be my ally. And I think that our philosophical beliefs and someone's supernatural beliefs or their religious beliefs, I think those are muddy waters. Sometimes they bleed into each other. But in terms of values, I think perhaps instead of talking about the bullet point fundamentals of a faith, perhaps we could start with the idea of what do we have in common in terms of our values as human beings. I like the sound of that. I've got Drewzilla, who said, I loved your speech about Christianity being a blood cult. It was a great perspective on something I grew up with as, quote, the normal. Love from Norway. It's true. Are you washed in the blood? Are you covered by the blood? There's nothing but the blood of Jesus. On Communion Sunday, we drink the blood. Christianity. It's a blood cult. I'm just saying. I want to thank you for your patience as I've been kind of working out the interface. I am going to, I guess I've got a little bit of time. Would you like to continue for another few minutes? I should be editing. What time is it? 1 o'clock? Let's take a look at 314. Is it Darren?
Yes, Seth, can you hear me?
I can indeed. I appreciate your call. Thanks for waiting. What do you want to talk about?
No problem. I apologize. I'm a little nervous. First time caller.
You're fine.
I may be all over the place.
You're fine.
But I just wanted to say, long time listener, and I've been following you and people like Matt and Arn for a long time. I'm gray in the beard too, and I just wanted to share a little good news. And I had a question for you.
Yeah.
I grew up in Missouri, which that kind of says it all. But after I joined the Army late in life, but after the Army and going to Iraq and meeting new people and getting out of my bubble, I really, you're never too old to grow. I went to my first Pride parade. I live in Colorado now, but went to my first Pride parade. Had the best time of my life. I mean, just the most amazing love that was all about the streets, and just something I would have done if I had stayed where I was at and never got outside my bubble. And yeah, I just wanted to share that with you. If any, by listening that kind of stays in their little, meet people, go do places, things that you would normally never do. And I guess my question for you is, and this is kind of also weird, but the rise of Christian nationalism and Trump and everything in the weirdest way has probably been the best thing for me, because it shows how far I am away from these people and my beliefs and values. And I just wondered what your thoughts were on, like, with the extreme Christian nationalism rise now. I akin it to like the death throes of a star. You throw everything out right before you die. And I just wanted your thoughts on that. And thanks for being you, brother. Appreciate it. You have a good day.
All right. Thanks for calling. Thanks for the kind words as well. I don't know if I see it as a dying star as much as I see it as a wounded animal. Gnashing and biting and harming. We have an entire culture faced with the dying of their privilege. They will not go quietly, and I am convinced that many of these people are willing to burn it all down rather than share this world. Are they like a dying star in some ways? Well, I agree with the dying part as far as long term. We're becoming more secular as a nation, especially with the 30 and under crowd. But I'm not sure these people have ever been more dangerous in this country. They've weaponized the internet. They live in a nation with 400 million firearms. And I'm not anti-gun per se, but there are more firearms than citizens in this country. We have the militia mentality where they are off training themselves for an upcoming holy war. They're carrying their weapons in public, waving their flags, sometimes wearing their flags because Trump has convinced them. Others have convinced them it's a war on everything. It's a war on them personally, the most privileged class in this country. Somehow they believe they're the victims. They are convinced. They spin themselves up to these conspiratorial lathers. They're fearful people. And they're loaded with rage. Imagine that the idea of sharing this world equally with other people would make you so filled with rage. What kind of scarred over heart? What type of person would be enraged at the idea of the wide, wild spectrum of humanity, of not being in control of all things, but sharing this world? I'm nervous. No, I'm sorry. I'm scared. I'm watching the events down in Miami, and I think all it takes is one go word from the right person, and you are looking at bullets in the streets. You are looking at bullets and bodies. You are looking at bloodshed, an uncivil war, a Christian jihad. It's a powder keg. Every day I wait for the next January 6th. And not just at one location, but in hundreds of locations around the country. I don't think it's hyperbole. And I think, what do we do then? A wounded animal. Desperate animal. Lashing and, screaming and biting. It's the best I got. I didn't mean to get so maudlin. And I don't want to be an alarmist. What's that line? Hyperbole will destroy the world. I don't think it's hyperbole. And you see, one of the things that fuels that is the weaponization of Christianity, which is loaded with military language. I'm in the Lord's army, right? We are marching to victory. You put on the full armor of God, including actual weapons. Let's see, it's the shield, the breastplate of righteousness, the sword of the Spirit. The weapons of our warfare. Yeah, I'm scared. Deke said he wanted to agree, underscoring the areas of moral agreement or our values. Thanks for chiming back in. Darren, super chatted $5. Thanks for being you. Darren, you are most kind. Much appreciated. Big Bazoo said, remember pre-COVID in Grand Rapids, Michigan, you were giving a talk in an old refurbished theater. Lights went out and we were told we were in a tornado warning. That was crazy. True story. I was halfway through a speech. There was massive severe weather. All power went out. I tried under the emergency lights to continue some kind of speech without a PowerPoint, and then they ushered everybody into the basement of the theater as the sirens were wailing, and apparently a twister was outside. We had to cancel the entire rest of the event. I will never forget that night, but it was lovely to hook up with so many people to connect with my fellow humanists in any context. Von Rex said, thank you for all that you do on this brand and on the line. Are you doing any convention appearances this year? I'm doing a lot of individual speaking tour stops, Dallas, Houston, Tulsa, Wichita, Kansas City. I'll be speaking at the 30th anniversary dedication or memorial at the Robert Green Ingersoll Museum in Dresden, New York. That's going to be in the first part of August. And then the next actual convention is the Blue Water Atheist Humanist Convention in Sarnia, Ontario. BajaCon is how we refer to that event. And I'll be there. Dave Warnock, Matt Dillahunty is going to be there. Greta Vosper is speaking. I think Dr. Josh Bowen may be coming back. All of the events, times, tickets, everything you need, SethAndrews.com/events. Okay? SethAndrews.com/events. There should be links to everything that you need. Love you guys. I'm going to call it. Go grab some lunch, finish some work, grab the dogs from the groomer. Thank you so much for being here. Thanks for the support, the super chats, and mostly for listening, watching, and being a part of this whole thing. I'll see you back here next time.